Imagine a house that is not the largest in America, not the oldest, and not the most beautiful in a simple way. Yet no other house has carried so much fear, hope, grief, ambition, and power. It has been burned by an enemy army, rebuilt from blackened stone, expanded by presidents, guarded through wars, watched by protesters, visited by children, and photographed by millions who may never step inside. This is the White House. Not just a home, not just an office. It is the house where America keeps asking what power is supposed to mean. At first glance, the White House seems almost modest compared with the palaces of Europe. It does not rise above a city like a fortress. It does not hide behind a royal court. It sits in the capital of a republic with columns, windows, lawns, fences, and doors that suggest both openness and distance. That is part of its mystery. It is a private residence and a public symbol, a family home and a command center. A place of dinner tables and war rooms, a house that belongs to one president at a time, but to the memory of a nation. The story begins after the American Revolution, when the new United States faced a difficult question. Where should power live? A republic that had rejected kings still needed a capital. It needed a place where laws could be made, ambassadors received, armies directed, and ceremonies performed. George Washington helped choose the site along the Potomac River, a place that was still more idea than city. Fields, marshes, roads, and unfinished plans surrounded the future seat of government. Before the White House could become a symbol, the country had to imagine itself into existence. The President's House, as it was first known, was designed in the language of order: stone, symmetry, columns, and balance. Construction began in the 1790s, and the building rose slowly in a young capital that often felt unfinished. But the story of its construction carries one of America's earliest contradictions. The house of a republic devoted to liberty was built in part by enslaved laborers, free black workers, immigrant craftsmen, European stonecutters, and local laborers whose names history did not always preserve. From the beginning, the White House held the promise of freedom and the reality of inequality in the same walls. John Adams became the first president to live there in 1800. The rooms were still unfinished. The city was still raw. The mansion was cold, damp, and difficult to heat. Yet Adams understood what the house represented. It was not simply a residence for one man. It was meant to shelter the future of the republic. In those early rooms, the presidency was still becoming real. The country was still learning how to transfer power peacefully, how to disagree without collapsing, and how to turn revolutionary ideals into daily government. Then came fire. In 1814, during the War of 1812, British troops entered Washington and set fire to public buildings, including the president's house. Flames moved through rooms that had been built to symbolize a permanent republic. Smoke blackened the stone. Furniture, papers, and symbols of government vanished into heat and ash. The young nation had already declared independence, fought a revolution, and written a constitution. But now the world could see its capital burning. The White House was not yet a legend. It was a wounded house in a wounded city. The decision to rebuild mattered. The United States could have moved on, abandoned the burned shell, or chosen a different image for presidential power. Instead, the house was restored. The blackened walls were cleaned. The rooms were remade. New paint covered old scars, but the memory remained. That act of rebuilding gave the White House one of its deepest meanings. It became a symbol not of a country that had never been damaged, but of a country that believed damage did not have to be the final word. Across the 19th century, the White House grew into its role. Presidents arrived with different tempers, visions, and burdens. Some wanted expansion, some feared division, some believed the future belonged to farms and frontiers. Others saw industry, banks, railroads, and empire. The House absorbed their arguments, It heard
If this
cabinet
gets out
meetings,
before the summit,
family
we're
grief,
finished.
political
Don't worry, we
deals,
have it under control.
official
The
dinners,
press
and
won't know
private
a thing.
doubts. It became a stage where the American experiment
compromise
moved
goes too
forward,
far.
but not smoothly.
It's the only
Power
way
in a
forward,
republic
John.
is never quiet.
have to
It is
secure the
always
votes.
contested. No president carried a heavier shadow
level
through
of
the White
sustained
House than
protest
Abraham
is
Lincoln.
unacceptable.
During the Civil
We are
War,
preparing the
the House
official
stood at the
statement now.
center of a nation tearing
By
itself
1863,
apart.
Washington had become a
Soldiers
vast
camped
armed
around
camp.
Washington.
The White House stood as a symbol of
Casualty
unity,
lists
even as the
arrived.
nation threatened to tear
Families
itself
wrote
apart.
letters begging
the
for
casualty
help.
lists grew longer
Enslaved
each day.
people sought freedom.
Yet still they came,
Generals came and went.
risking everything for
Lincoln
the
walked
promise
the
of freedom.
rooms under the weight
Our
of death,
forces are positioned here,
union,
General, but the supply lines are
emancipation,
exposed.
and a
We
future
anticipate
no
an
one
engagement
could
near this
guarantee.
position within the week.
The White House was not only a seat of command, it became a place where the meaning of America was fought over in every decision. This is the central contradiction
We
of the
cannot
White
afford
House.
another
It
defeat like
represents
Fredericksburg.
democracy,
We
yet
must
it was
move
built
here
in a
before
country
winter
that
sets in.
denied democracy to millions. It represents freedom, yet it stood through slavery, segregation, exclusion, and war. It represents the people, yet most people can only see it from outside the fence. That does not make the White House false, it makes it honest. Great national symbols are rarely pure.
The
They
People's
gather the
House,
ideals a
a symbol
nation
of
proclaims
democracy,
and the failures
yet
it
most
must answer
experience
for.
it from this
The White House is
distance,
powerful
behind the
because it
fence.
holds both. For immigrants and newcomers, the White House
A
carried
nation's
another
symbol is
meaning.
honest,
Many
not
arrived
just
in
because it
America with
represents
little
our
knowledge of
highest
its
ideals.
institutions,
They
but they
came
learned that
searching
this
for a
house
new life,
represented the
and
government
found
of
in
their
this
new
house
country.
the promise
Some
of a new
came
beginning
seeking work,
and a
some
government of the
safety,
people.
some
They
freedom,
came seeking more
some
than just a
countries,
job.
some freedom,
They sought
some a
safety,
chance for their
freedom,
children to
and a
become
brighter
American.
future for their
They might
children in a
never
new
meet a
land.
president.
The promise
They might
that power
never
is
enter
not owned
Washington,
forever by a
but the
king,
White House still
dynasty,
became
or
part of the
class,
promise they
but
inherited.
rests with the
That
people.
power, at least in
America's
theory,
growth
was not
necessitated a
owned by
larger
a
seat of
king,
power.
a
The early
dynasty,
20th century
or a
saw the
single
creation of the
class
West Wing,
forever.
transforming the residence
As
into a
America
modern
grew,
office.
the White House changed with it. Offices expanded, staff increased. The West Wing emerged. The Oval Office became one of the
way
most
the president
recognizable
speaks to the
rooms in
nation
the
has
world.
constantly evolved,
Telephones,
bringing the
radios,
voice of
cameras,
power directly
television,
into American
and finally,
homes.
the
We are
internet
monitoring the
changed
situation
how
closely.
presidential
The
power
vice
was
president is
seen.
departing now to
A
assess the
house
damage.
once
We
known
will
through
not rest
newspapers
until
and
every
portraits
American is safe.
became a building
We must
watched
face
in
these
real time.
challenges not with fear,
Every
but with
speech,
the hope that
crisis,
has always
arrival,
defined
and
us.
departure
Power to the
could be
people.
broadcast across
Power
the
to the
nation.
people.
The White House
We must
became not
secure
only
the
a place
Atlantic
of
supply
power,
lines.
but a
German
screen
aggression
onto
leaves
which
us no
Americans
choice but
projected
intervention.
fear and
But
hope.
consider the costs, sir.
In the
If
20th
the supply
century, the
lines
House
fail, the
faced
European
wars
front
that
collapses.
reached far
We must
beyond
act
American
now.
shores.
It's a calculated risk,
During
but
World War
unavoidable
I,
given the current
presidents
situation.
and advisors
While victories
debated
mount in
how
the
a
Pacific,
distant
we must
conflict
not forget the
could reshape
sacrifices
the
made
world.
daily on the European
During
front.
World War II,
Our commitment
the White
remains
House
unwavering.
became a nerve center of strategy, alliance, and survival. Decisions made in its rooms affected soldiers in Europe, sailors in
Tensions
the
were
Pacific,
high.
factories at
The White
home,
House stood
and
as a
families
beacon,
waiting beside
scrutinized
radios.
by friend and foe
The House
alike
did not
across
fight
the
battles,
globe.
but
Their
it carried the
movements
burden
suggest
of
an imminent
decisions
strike.
that sent
We
others
must
into
advise
them.
the president immediately.
Then came the
The
Cold
embassy
War,
confirms
and the
the
meaning
troop
of
movements.
power changed again. The White
While the
House
world
became a
holds its
symbol,
breath,
watched
The
not only
business
by
of state
Americans,
continues
but by the
behind
world.
these silent walls.
Behind its calm exterior were nuclear briefings, intelligence reports, diplomatic messages, civil defense plans, and moments when fear moved faster than reason. The house that had once survived fire now lived under the shadow of weapons that could destroy cities in minutes. Its white walls suggested order.
They see us every day.
The world outside
understand
often
that,
felt
but
anything but
Does it really
orderly.
change anything?
The White House also watched citizens demand that America live up to its own words. Civil rights marches, anti-war protests, suffrage memory, labor movements, veterans, families, students, and grieving parents all brought their voices toward the center of power. Sometimes
In the
they
halls
came
of
in
power,
celebration,
life
sometimes in
continues.
anger,
Moments
sometimes
of
in
grief,
mourning. The
celebration,
fence became
and
a line
wearing red
between
status. I
government
need eyes on
and the
secretary
governed,
now. The
but
SecDef is
also
already
a
in the
meeting
Situation
place.
Room. Bring
A
those
republic
files
does not
immediately.
only speak from inside the house, it also speaks from the street outside. Through all of this, the White House remained a home. Children played there. First families grieved
Power
there.
is visible,
Weddings,
but perhaps the real
funerals,
question
pets,
is what
holiday
we choose to see in
decorations,
ourselves.
birthdays, illnesses, sleepless nights, and ordinary meals existed beside national emergencies. That human scale is easy to forget. Presidents
stay
are
behind the
surrounded
barriers
by
and follow
symbols,
the
but they
marked
still
path to the
age,
visitor center.
worry, lose
No
people,
photography of
make
the security
mistakes,
personnel.
and face the limits of their
Georges.
judgment.
The
The White House
stands
matters
as a
because it
symbol of
turns power
democracy,
into
yet it is
something
also a
visible,
fortress.
and
Here, the
visibility
ideals
makes
of public
power
access
human
and the-
enough to
The
question.
White House stands as
Over
the
time, the
enduring
distance
symbol of
between the
American
people in the
power.
House changed.
But today,
Security
it is
increased,
clearly under
fences
judgment.
hardened, streets
A
closed,
republic is a
threats
constant
became more
negotiation.
complex. The
We
White House
argue,
remained a
we
public
revise,
symbol,
and then
but
we
it
try
also
again.
became a protected site in a dangerous
The
age.
nation faces
This is
unprecedented
another
challenges.
contradiction.
No
A
justice,
house that
no
represents
peace.
democratic
And so,
access must
the peaceful
also be
transfer
guarded
of
from
power
those who might
continues.
destroy it. Openness and safety pull against each other. Every modern democracy lives with that tension. But at the White House, the tension
promise of
becomes
equality is
architecture.
still very much a work
So
in
what does the
progress.
White House really
We have to
mean?
hold our
It
elected
means
officials accountable
power
for
under
the changes
judgment.
we need.
It means
Through
a
the flames
republic
of
trying,
conflict, the
failing,
cries of
correcting,
protest, and the
arguing,
relentless
and
glare
trying
of the
again.
world.
It means
The
a
White
building
House
that
stands.
survived an enemy
It represents
fire,
the
a
sacrifices
civil
made.
war,
It's about the
world
future,
wars,
about
depressions,
possibility. This
scandals,
administration needs to listen to the people.
assassinations,
Look, kids, we finally
protests,
made it.
and
For over a
peaceful
century,
transfers
the
of
People's
power.
House has stood
It means
witness.
a
Votes for
nation that has
women.
often
Votes for
disappointed
all.
its ideals,
constant amid
but
the
has also
changing tides
returned
of
to them
history. Freedom
again
is about
and again.
respect, even
The
when
White
we
House
disagree.
does not
Civics
prove that
isn't just a
America is
subject,
perfect.
it's a
It
responsibility.
proves that America's
Equal rights
promises
now.
have always been unfinished work. In the end, the White House is not important because of its walls alone. It is important because of what those walls have survived. Fire did not erase it. War did not silence it. Power
by
did
laborers,
not make it simple.
sanctified by
Every
generations of
generation
leadership.
looks at the House
The
and sees
legacy
something
echoes
different.
through time.
Authority, hope,
From the
anger,
hands of the
pride,
enslaved shaping
disappointment,
stone to the
memory,
immigrants arriving
possibility.
with hope.
That
This house
is
was
why
built by
it
those seeking a better
endures.
future.
It is
Though the
not a
faces
palace
change
above
and the
history.
uniforms
It is a
fade,
house
the struggle for a
inside
more
history,
perfect union
carrying the
continues
weight
on
of a
these
nation
grounds.
that is still
This is where the
deciding
Treaty of Paris
what
was
freedom
signed.
should look like.
Look how tall the
And
columns
tonight,
are.
when the lights come on behind
saw
its
these in the
windows,
movie, remember?
the White House still looks
From
almost
the ashes
quiet.
of 1814,
A white shape
stronger
against
White
the
House
dark
emerged,
trees of Washington.
a place where the weight
But
of the
inside
world
that
rests.
quiet image is a long American story. Builders and presidents, enslaved workers and immigrants, soldiers and
Democracy
protesters,
is not a finished
families
mansion,
and visitors,
but a house that must
fires
be repaired,
and decisions,
protected,
grief
opened,
and renewal.
and questioned.
The house survived because the country kept rebuilding around it. And perhaps that is its strongest message. Democracy
According to
is
Major
not a
L'Enfant's
finished
plan, the meridian
mansion.
must run through
It
this
is a
point.
house that
We must
must be
ensure the
repaired,
alignment is exact.
protected,
The boundary
opened,
stone is set.
questioned, and passed
From
on.
these chambers